This set's damage done with status effects now only applies to monsters. Hey everyone, it's Spopes. So the Shattered Path Signet, the new mythic in the Elder Scrolls Online that came out with the night market, has been nerfed. If only someone had been able to predict this. Oh wait, this guy. I've been saying this would happen for a while now, but even I was shocked by the way it was nerfed. I'm going to cover all the details of the Shattered Path Signet nerf in this video, providing my analysis and commentary. I actually covered this on stream earlier. This is going to be a condensed version of that section of my stream. But before we get into that, please remember to support the channel by liking, hyping, and subbing, and consider upgrading your support with a membership, a merch purchase, or a donation. The Shattered Path Signet has been nerfed to oblivion. This is just out this morning. We've received the incremental patch 1 notes for update 50. And in general, there's not a lot of import here, just some basic bug fixes. But, honestly, I was thinking they wouldn't nerf Shattered Paths until considerably down the line. Like probably update 51. They'd let people keep playing with it for a while. But nope, that is not the case. It is now slightly weaker in PvE, but literally now 100% useless in PvP. And I'll show you exactly what I mean here. This set's damage done with status effects now only applies to monsters. It doesn't work in PvP at all, but they've gone just full throttle with this, where it just doesn't have any effect in PvP anymore. Shattered Path Signet, it was famous very briefly for making your status effects do an incredible amount of damage the more ultimate you had. It still does that in PvE. I believe it's been nerfed a little bit. I'm not, super math guy, so I can't really figure it out. But the most important factor here is that the status effect increased damage now only applies to monsters. But let's continue. Reduce the maximum damage bonus from 170% to 133, and reduce the ultimate required to reach the cap to 133 down from 170. Reduce the cooldown for applying status effects when at the maximum ultimate threshold to 2 seconds at 133 ultimate, down from 4 seconds at 170. So the top cap of how much damage it can do has been reduced, but your ability to do that damage has been increased. So I'm not really sure how much that actually nerfs. People are saying it only took their damage down by 5 to 6% in a Reddit thread, which we'll get to next. But no matter which way you look at this, it is definitely a nerf, simply because of that first line, where it doesn't work in PvP at all. So ever since the U50 PTS, and people are testing this out, I've been seeing build after build, Werewolf, Shattered Path Signet. And most of them have been oriented toward PvP. I mean, maybe not most, but probably about at least 50% have been PvP oriented. So I really personally dodged a bullet here, where by not going with Shattered Paths, my build is still viable. Even though Oaken Soul is old and often kind of lampooned as being for like disabled people or whatever, which is literally why they made it. It is an accessibility item at its core. But here I am, still doing the same damage in PvP as I was, while anyone using Shattered Paths, I mean, that's literally just gone in PvP. Just gone. So I do feel like this was a bit of an overcorrection. I don't feel like ZOS needed to go this far with it. I was honestly expecting something like the ultimate drain would be higher, so it'd be less viable in PvP. I didn't even honestly expect them to reduce the amount of damage in general. But to just completely get rid of the PvP damage for the Shattered Paths, I did not see that coming. I feel like it was kind of a knee-jerk overreaction, overcorrection. Like they didn't need to go this far with it. They didn't need to completely disable it in PvP. But that is a big deal. It is a major change that I honestly don't think many people were expecting, or they weren't expecting it to happen this soon. Yet it did. And there is also a dev note down here below explaining why they did it. We're making a handful of targeted adjustments to remove this set's overwhelming presence in PvP by removing the large damage bonus to status effects from PvP areas, while simultaneously gently reining in the ceiling potential of the set overall. At the same time, we're bumping up the floor by reducing the cooldown for this set to apply status effects. So that's what they say they're doing here. And God bless them. I suppose it's fine, but people are pretty upset. People are pretty upset they got their shiny new toy taken away. And I can also completely understand that. So let's go check out all the saltiness on Reddit. This was a thread titled Shattered Pass Signet Nerfed, also no longer works on players. And the original poster just copy and paste the information on the nerf and also the dev note. But now we get into the comments. There's a lot of positivity here, like people saying this gets rid of a huge problem. Signet was overpowered in PvP, which is, that's 100% true. And yeah, this is a direct nerf. Someone crunched the numbers here, and they're saying that the loss to damage is about 5%. So it's really not a huge nerf in PvE. It's a complete and comprehensive nerf in PvP, but this really doesn't change things very much in PvE from what I'm seeing. And in the end, I really agree with this user, the Bunginator. I'm just going to read this comment verbatim. This is Zos's biggest issue. They always lurch back and forth and oversteer. This needed a nerf, but did not need removing from PvP entirely. Extra pressure in return for more or less giving up an ultimate is a reasonable trade-off in theory. It just needed to be brought down a bit. This always happens though. 1 minute a set or build is meta, and the next it's dead and you deconstruct your gear. There's never an in-between. And I really agree. And I also think that the reason why is pretty despicable. I think it is a combination of incompetence and laziness that causes Zos to just cut the Gordian knot in every case like this. Now, sometimes they do come back like they did with the Oakensole, and they then rebuff it. They rebalance it after having some time to think about it. But these almost anxious knee-jerk reactions are the norm for these overpowered sets or mythics or whatever. And what really gets me about that is the way they respond is like it's some completely unexpected thing out of their control. Someone needs to tell Zos, you guys literally made Shattered Pass this powerful. And you made Shattered Pass this powerful on purpose. So people would play the night market. Own that. Roll with it. Be like, well, yeah, we made this OP to drive engagement, and now it's too OP, so we have to put down the monster we created. But the optics of the way they respond to these issues is always like, oh, what happened? How did Shattered Pass get so powerful? We had nothing to do with it. That's the main problem I have here, is instead of taking the time to really think up what the correct solution would be, they just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And then sometime later, when it's not even relevant anymore, they fix it again. That's what happened with Oakensole. And what they should have done there is the way that Oakensole is now should have been the way it was when they first nerfed it. But instead, they knee-jerk reacted, changed it in a terrible way initially, and then rechanged it back to be more similar to the way it was initially way down the line. And I honestly predict that's what's going to happen with Shattered Pass too, is this is going to be reverted to some degree. They'll probably bring it back into PvP, but in a lesser form. So why they couldn't do that in its first iteration, I can understand when it first comes out. It's kind of shady, but I get it. You want to have this bright, shiny, powerful object to draw people into the game to engage with the content. It used to be to buy the content pass, but now they just wanted to drive those engagement metrics they were then fawning over with how many people Night Market brought back into the game, which again, like, great job. Good job, Zos. You made something pretty cool. It was divisive. It was controversial, but you went with it anyway. You made the night market, and the main allure for night market for hardcore sweaty players was the Shattered Pass Signet. So I completely understand making that absurdly OP at first. I really wish they hadn't. It's not really right or the moral or ethical thing to do, but I get that. What I don't get is 2 weeks, like less than 2 weeks after the night market ends, just utterly obliterating that same item. They could have waited a month or 6 weeks or 2 months. It wouldn't have really killed anybody to have Shattered Pass be super powerful in PvP for a while longer. It's kind of fun. It's fun having something absurdly powerful for a while. Why not, right? People are going to cry about it. And that's what this next commenter has to say down here. Pine Dude 128 says their biggest issue, meaning ZOS, is they always bend over backward for a small portion of the community. I've lost count of the number of sets that were great in PvE but got nerfed because PvP players were getting wrecked. And they go on to say that with all these QL updates, they really need to make separate stats for sets depending on what you're playing. I mean, yes. And I believe that is what they ended up doing in Destiny 2, which was another PvE/PvP game where I think they basically just end up making items work differently in PvP than they did in PvE. And why doesn't ZOS do that? Why don't they do that? I mean, that's a good question. And I really do think it just comes down to the same problems of incompetence and laziness. And people tell me all the time to go easier on ZOS. And I wish I could. People say the gaming industry is in a hard spot right now. Their jobs are in jeopardy. ESO itself is in jeopardy. Yes, that is true. But my philosophy, call me a meritocratist, if that's even a word, is that if you are embroiled in suboptimal conditions, it is incumbent upon you to strive for greater excellence, not to blame those circumstances, not to try to get the world to change for you, but you need to change in response to the world. So if it's true that gaming is in a tough spot, if it's true that game developers are having their livelihoods threatened, then you need to become more competent as a game developer, both on the whole as an organization and on the individual level. This is the time to bring even more to the table. This is not the time to delay Warden again. This is not the time for things like vengeance. This is not the time for lazy, incompetent, knee-jerk reactions when nerfing things. This is the time to show through results, not through whining, not through HR, but through results, that you still deserve a place on the MMO market, that you still deserve a place in the gaming industry. You need to demonstrate that unequivocally. You need to prove your value, not claim it, not just say, hey, look, I'm doing a job here. Keep paying me. Well, why? Why does the Elder Scrolls Online continue to have a right to exist? Prove it. Don't just say 3,000 years ago, a place in the MMO market was promised to my ancestors. Show us. This doesn't show us that. Delaying the Warden rework does not show us that. Sure, I'd love to give them grace. I think I actually do. I'm not here fuming and salty, throwing out ad hominem attacks. I'm just saying, if circumstances in the gaming industry are really so dire, then you need to step up to the plate. You need to demonstrate your enduring value. But what's probably going to happen instead is there's going to be increasing calcification and brittleness within the studio, where people are going to they're going to respond to the pressure by becoming less competent, by being lazier, because, oh, life's so hard. I mean, I just can't do it anymore. That's probably what's going to happen. And that will probably be the death blow of the Elder Scrolls Online, regardless of how much money it makes, how profitable it is, how much people love it. The problem is that if the developers do not show as much love for the game as the players, the game will decline because the game is only as good as what the developers put into it. And so things like this, long story short, the knee-jerk incompetence of just destroying Shattered Pass for PvP, that it makes me worried. It does. It shows me that the same decision makers are still at the wheel. The same kind of decisions are still being made. Sure, there's better communication from the studio. Yes, they're going in and fixing long-standing issues of the game. They're giving us lots of good stuff. We are eating well in ESO this year, but there needs to be a more fundamental shift in the studio ethos that is not reflected by these changes. Let's see if there are any more good comments here. They over nerf and over buff, just make smaller changes. This is what Vengeance was supposed to address. There is no fixing this issue. The very design of the game is predicated on a series of trade-offs that are constantly changing. I'm with this guy, Useful Idiot. I guess I am that lucky guy who decided not to build my werewolf PvP around the Signet. The moment I saw that Signet, I thought, this doesn't belong in PvP. I guess Sauce agrees with my thought. This was bound to happen. I'm surprised they removed it from PvP altogether. I threw the Signet at my werewolf yesterday. My damage went through the roof. This is a common sentiment. Did not expect it to be removed from PvP entirely. Yeah, that was fast, but needed for the health of the game. Yeah, that's what surprised me about this, is how fast they came out with this change. I was not expecting it to come out this quickly. Fun detected, not allowed. We wanted a nerf for PvP. I didn't realize that translated to remove it. I'll just leave that there. So now I'm going to log back in. I'm going to look at the Shattered paths and make sure that these changes actually came about. Because I did get the dang thing. Yeah, it's right there. These changes are live. It's now maximum of 133% damage to status effects. It's now every 2 seconds. What was not changed at all was the minor timidity. I was thinking they might buff that up to major timidity, something like that. But no, that was not changed. Instead, just the overall power of the item was nerfed somewhat for PvE, but just completely removed for PvP. It now says increase your damage done to monsters with status effects by 1% for every one ultimate you have. Yeah. So it is reflected in there that it is not putting out player damage anymore. Oh well. Thus ends the era of the Shattered Pass Signet. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's about the long and short of it. The Shattered Path Signet Mythic Ring in the Elder Scrolls Online has been really substantially nerfed. It did need to be nerfed, but I feel like this is a significant overcorrection. And as I went into in length in the video, it is just par for the course with the way that ZOS handles these things. The part I can definitely understand is putting this shiny new object in the game to entice you to play it, but just slicing through the Gordian knot and nerfing mythics this extremely is something that really just doesn't make sense to me, and I really feel like ZOS needs to do better for the game to really thrive in the long run. In the comments, let us know what you think about this nerf, whether you think it was too much, whether it surprises you or not. Also, do provide your comments on my analysis and commentary, whether you think I'm spot on, whether you think I should give ZOS more grace, whether you think I should come down on them even harder, actually. Do provide all your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, please remember to support the channel by liking, hyping, and subscribing. And I would really appreciate it if you took that support a step further by becoming a member of the Spopes Army. Plans have great perks and are very affordable. You can also show your love of Spopes to the world with some of my merch listed below the video. And either on my Fourth Wall site or here on YouTube, you can also leave me a donation. I'm so grateful for your support, but I'm even more grateful to God. So we're going to finish up as always with a prayer to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Lord, thank you for the Elder Scrolls Online and the incredible community that has sprung up around it. Lord, please be with the developers of ESO at ZOS as they figure out how to properly balance the game. Please give them inspiration to go the extra mile to really knock it out of the park with what they do. If there is any laziness or incompetence in the studio, please root it out and replace it with competence and truly meritable deeds. Lord, I thank you for making it possible to make this video today. I thank you for my channel and for the breath in my lungs and my wonderful community. Lord, I ask that you bless me and my channel and my family and my community, that you bless the Elder Scrolls Online as it continues to go on into the future. Lord Christ, I give you all glory for this video and for my channel. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Thanks for watching until the end. Before you go, please remember to like, hype, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, turn on notifications, because I'll be back soon with new content.